find a comfortable seat because you're going to have an exciting program ahead of you, and I want to make sure you're comfortable enough to enjoy it. So this is the 26th of July, 2019. How many people think the year is going by too fast? Just for the record, to those of you at home, every hand went up. And it's not because I'm a leader. All right, so we're going to start tonight with a forum presentation by none other than K3NF. That would be Harry, who's going to talk to us about, interestingly enough, so I'm going to turn it over to Harry, who's going to talk to us about Hamfests. Thanks, Harry.
Much. How many people here have never been to a Hamfest? Anybody never been? Okay. Been to ours? Okay, that's one. You just once? Just once, okay. So tonight we're going to talk about selling at a Hamfest or how to rotate your stock. What is a Hamfest? A ham radio festival, a convention of amateur radio enthusiasts, often combining a trade show like you see at Hamvention or Hamcation, Flea Market, which is what interests me, presentations, exam sessions like we have at Winterfest, and other activities. It's a place to buy and sell new or used radio and electronic equipment, and it's often called a swap meet. And I think Hamfests are the second best thing in amateur radio. Okay, next slide. Okay, so where are the Hamfests? There's some local ones and some other things going on. Carafest is pretty good, and that's up in Howard County, just outside of Baltimore in October. Frostfest in Richmond is a great one. That's the Virginia Convention, and interesting with them, you can buy your tickets in advance online, and you get in a half hour earlier than everybody else. We have our Winterfest in March, and I have a slide on that. Hamcation in Orlando in March, which is a really big deal. Culpeper Amateur Radio Club has, from time to time, junk in the trunk that they call it in April. What we consider the king of all Hamfests is the Dayton Hamvention in May. Maryland FM Association has one Memorial Day, and that was pretty good, pretty well attended. Manassas Hamfest that we had a few weeks ago out in Manassas, and then Berryville, as Bill mentioned, coming up in August. And then how do you find out? Well, you can go to the ARL Hamfest and Convention calendar. You can go online. You can look in QST, or you can just Google Hamfests and find out where they are and kind of plan your trip. When you go to a Hamfest, you get these flyers. Flyer on the right there is obviously for Berryville, and the flyer on the left is our new and improved Winterfest flyer for March 29th, 2020. So my intention is to start advertising Winterfest as soon as possible. I'll be taking those to Berryville to put them out. You'll usually find by the prize drum where you put your ticket stub in for the prizes. You'll usually find a bunch of flyers for Hamfest coming up. I'll take some down to Frostfest in Richmond, and then I'll take some down to HRO. Interesting, last year down at HRO, almost a year in advance, Radio Club from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania had their flyers down at the Woodbridge HRO. So it's an old-fashioned way of advertising, but people still use it. Okay, here's some other Hamfests. This was a radio blog. There's Manassas, a couple shots from Manassas. That's what you find at Dayton. There's more at Dayton. And then there's the German Amateur Radio Club puts on the Friedrichshafen, it's called Ham Radio. I think that's all it's called. Has anybody ever been to that one? You been to that one? Yeah. It's a big deal. Okay, next slide. Okay, so you're going to sell at a Hamfest. What's your goal? Are you going to make money? Is that why you're out there, so you can sell something for more than you paid for it 10 years ago? Is your goal to get rid of old stuff, to clean out the shack, to come home with nothing, get rid of the project rig that you never started? Could be to have fun, get some fresh air, get there early, get a good seat, talk to the people that come by, and if you sell it, fine. If you don't sell it, Some people are in it for business. They go from Hamfest to Hamfest. And then you'll see these guys walking around at Hamfest. They'll have a sign on their back. It says, for sale, 4-bedroom house with attached 5-element 40-meter beam. See me. And, you'll see all those kinds of things too. Go ahead. Okay, so what do you need? First and foremost, you need a plan. You've got to decide, what are you going to sell? Does it work? Will you bring it home? If you have a handheld, make sure the battery's charged so you can turn it on, or somebody will ask you, does it work? And then you go to turn it on, and then you didn't charge the battery, and then you lost the sale. You should have a list of what you're selling with prices, and I think the majority of people realize that the price you have on your list is not the price you're going to sell it for. They'll come up and they'll say, how much are you asking for that? And you'll tell them, and then you get into a discussion. You need a small folding table, and I'll show you why here in a minute. You need a chair so you can sit down. You need some signage. You need a sign to put on the items, or a list of the items that you're selling. And obviously, as I mentioned, you need some starting prices. Hard. Okay, signage is important. You can have a listing. I've used yellow stickies. They're okay. They're not great. The sales plan, what's the starting point? I go to eBay and find out what's the old radio selling for, what are people asking for it, what do I want to get for it, put $50 more on what I want to get for it and try that as a starting price. What's the lowest price you'll accept? And, are there any comparables available at the Hamfest? Sometimes you go around, you see a guy selling the same rig you're selling for $100 less, and you wonder why yours didn't sell. I mentioned, does it work? I mentioned competition. You've got to have the accessories. If you have the original box, if you have the manual, the cord, the microphone, all the things that came with it when it was new, you're going to have a better chance of selling than if you just put a dirty radio that smells of cigarette smoke on a table. And obviously there's no guarantees. I've had guys ask me if I guarantee it, will I come and can they get their money back if it doesn't work, and you get all those kinds of things. Okay, so here's the sales. There was the shack before, and so the goal was to rotate the stock and get rid of everything that was on that table. So at CaraFest in 2015, there's the table, the chair, Berryville, later in 2015. Hard. This was CaraFest. It was quick and easy to put the blanket on the ground, but it didn't work. People didn't want to bend down and look, and so sales were not very good that day. I had some good signage, but that didn't work. So then I tried another table. That worked a little bit better. You can see I had the linear, and then I had a spare tube for the linear as well. Original boxes for the TS520, which was bought original and brand new. And then the TS520 didn't sell at Berryville, so in 2015 I took it down to FrostFest in Richmond, and FrostFest in Richmond is all inside. It's all inside on tables. Okay, next one. So who are you going to meet when you go out there? Well, you're going to meet the lookers, the knob turners, the guys that said, I used to have one of those. They don't have any money. They don't want to buy anything. They came with their buddies to get some fresh air. And it's nice to talk to them and to meet them, and some of them you may have talked to on the air. You'll meet the lowballer. You're asking $550. He offers you $225. You say it's too low, I can't take it. He says, how low will you take? You say, I take $5.25. He walks away. He'll come back. He might offer you $235 instead of $225. You'll meet the early bird guys that come around in a hurry. They want to buy stuff from you immediately so that they can take it to their table and resell it. I've had that happen to me, mostly when I was trying to get rid of stuff. Guy came to me, offered me a low price. I said no. He took 10 steps. I said, wait a minute, let's talk. He finally offered me a little higher than the low price. I wanted to get rid of it, and I saw it on his table later. Go back, Howard. You're too far. Okay. The acceptors, people will walk up to your table. They say, how much you want for that? $735. They say, okay, and they reach in their pocket and get out the money. Those are few and far between. There's a lot of don't have a clue folks, guys that come up and say, how much do you want for that? And you tell them, and they think about it, and then they ask you what it is and how it's used, and sometimes they even buy it, you know. And then you have the odd requests. Guy at Frostfest wanted me to carry it out to his car and put it in his trunk for him because he couldn't lift it. Will you guarantee and refund your money, the money? Will you take a check for half? I've had people ask me, can you hold it for me and I'll pay you later? Will you take a trade? And then there's people that want you to part out your radio. You sell the microphone, I don't really want the radio. I had a linear at Berryville, and it didn't sell. And a guy came by 3 times asking me about it, and he finally said, look, I'll buy it from you, but I don't have the money. Can you meet me tonight? Now, this is Sunday. So I came home from Berryville about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I drove out to Frying Pan Park, I think it was, at the Fairfax County Parkway, and met he and his wife, and he bought the radio. So you get all kinds of things. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about buying. First of all, you got to get there early so you can avoid buying the leftovers. And you need to have a list of what you want. I always have a list. Here's the things I need. Here's the radios that I'd like to buy, I'd like to find. Impulse buys rarely fit, and you end up with another piece of equipment on your desk that may or may not work. If you want it, make an offer, because it might not be there, and it's really a sinking feeling if you see something you really want, and then you come back 20 minutes later and it's gone. Ham radio operators are pretty honest folks, but it's good to ask a lot of questions to them. You know, why are you selling it? When did you get it? How long have you had it? You ever had any problems with it? Let them talk a little bit about it and see what they tell you about their radio. Sometimes you can find that they're trying to hide something from you. And I believe this is the most important thing. Don't forget connectors. All the time you get the radio home and you can't connect the antenna because it's got an N-type plug on the back, or it's got an SMA and you have a PL259 and you can't get the connectors. So be sure you get the connectors. And then it's best to have cash. You can save ahead. Put $20 away every week. We waste that on coffee, so put that in your stash, and when you get to the Hamfest, you're ready to go and you're all set. Okay, Howard. And that's it. Any questions about how to attack Berryville?
Dinner out there.
I've never stayed for the chicken dinner. They're always cooking it, and they're always cooking there, whatever they're making, the beef and everything, and then the line is always wrapped around the other, and I always leave before that. I don't know. Have you ever had it? I imagine it is. I just never stood in line for it.
By the way.
Yeah, they got a couple sandwiches.
Well, it's vendors there.
So, would you look at the list of vendors online and kind of do a check to see which vendors you want to go to besides the tailgaters?
You can do that, but that's not my interest. I can buy from most of those vendors or similar vendors for less money online, and my goal is to go to see what's at the flea market. I mean, you'll have sometimes if you have a radio store that's out there, but not usually. I don't look. I mean, they're there. They are.
Harry, what time to get there, 6:30 or 7?
Well, what time does it open?
7. And they're overnight.
Okay, Berryville, according to what Brendan has, the gates open at 6 o'clock. So you better be standing there ready to get in at 6 o'clock. And if you're a tailgater, then you can get in earlier, and so it might be worth the extra $20 to tailgate. Even if you don't have anything to sell, you can get in real early. And then you can see all the other tailgaters before the gates open.
For tailgaters? That's what I remember.
That's for the general public.
Like 6
Gates open at 6 o'clock.
It's done early.
Yeah, these are O-Dark 30 events. If you wait till 8 o'clock when the buildings, there's nothing there.
I thought it was always 7 a.m.
They're all different.
No, this one.
Yeah. Questions? Yes.
Just
Yes.
comment, if there's something you want, a specific radio or a couple of radios you're looking at, do your research before you go there so you know what price is a good price. So it might be that there's 3 of them there, and one of them just pops out at you, it's got a great price, which is below what you're looking for. eBay prices are always too high.
Also the features that you might want. One time I bought a radio and it didn't have the RIT that I expected, and I was surprised when I got home. So.
That's an excellent point, and goes back to my point. You got to have a plan, and that's why you ought to know what you want and how much you're willing to spend and how much you think is a reasonable price. So, okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Harry. Did anybody learn anything besides me there? All right, we got a bunch of hands for those people at home. If you're